Once upon a time, a baby was born. It was the baby, E-Man-ual. But E-Man-ual had a phantom twin, which was named Jesus.
A farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Some fell on rocky places where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched and they withered because they had no root. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. Still other seed fell on good soil, where it produced a crop, 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. He who has ears, let him hear. The disciples came to him and asked, "Why do you speak to the people in parables?" He replied, "The knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of heaven has been given to you, but not to them. Whoever has will be given more, and he will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what he has will be taken from him. This is why I speak to them in parables. Though seeing, they do not see. Though hearing, they do not hear or understand. In them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah. You will be ever hearing, but never understanding. You will be ever seeing, but never perceiving. For this people's heart has become calloused."
Storyteller, seven-story dweller, Rockefeller of esoteric wealth, Mesoamerican elf, tree spirit, echoes from the mound of the magician. Can you hear it? Don't fear it, bow humbly when you're near it. Abandon ego, beware law of contagion. Anonymity is timeless, meanwhile we're all aging. We live in the days of overtime, and over time we have seen foretold events unfold that seem like a bad dream. Perfect storm, disease, bombs, tsunamis, and World War III, much more than 2 armies. So few harm me, let's know what I talk about. Find me in the outback, aboriginal on walkabout with didgeridoos. The shamans hidden these clues within a labyrinth of language most tend to confuse. Metaphor for analogy, they soar towards the fallacy. Teach lies to each child and war for the salary. They bury me up to my knees and throw stones, but shalom is my home, protected by the omnitone. I stand between the pillars of Miss Patton's a deck. Goddess prostrates on the phallus when the god is erect. To receive the seed, complete the deed, conceive the new Horus. Problems of the modern day.
Behold, the virgin shall be with child, and bear a son. They shall call his name E-Man-ual, which is translated, God with us. Then Joseph, being aroused from sleep, did as the angel of the Lord commanded him, and took to him his wife, and did not know her till she had brought forth her firstborn son. And he called his name Jesus.
Because I do what I love daily, and all things hidden from plain sight see clearly.
Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, so is all we trust.
Now, in the Gospel of Thomas, this Jesus comes to reveal that you and he are, if you like, twins. And what you discover as you read the Gospel of Thomas, which you are meant to discover, is that you and Jesus at a deep level are identical twins. And that you discover that you are the child of God just as he is. And so that at the end of the Gospel, Jesus speaks to Thomas and says, "Whoever drinks from my mouth will become as I am, and I will become that person, and the mysteries will reveal to him." Now this answer throws you and me upon ourselves. Here Jesus, in effect, turns one towards oneself, and that is really one of the themes of the Gospel of Thomas, that you must go in a sort of a spiritual quest of your own to discover who you are, and to discover really that you are the child of God, just like Jesus.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Well, it's the zombie apocalypse. I mean, it has been the zombie apocalypse for a very long time, hasn't it? Just, I mean, people walking around in a daze, they look forward to the weekend as their days. They've been cruising in their days. So when the weekend comes, they can rest because they're weakened from the days of the weekdays. And mainly perhaps because the days of the days in the weekdays, they've been living out an illusion. And what they're doing with their days is really anti-productive to the human spirit and very, very healthy for the artificial system. So it serves the system, but certainly doesn't serve the spirit. And, and that brings me back to when I speak of the rights, the wrong, the moral, the good, the bad, the light and the dark. It's all really plain and simple, when we can look at things so simply, as in good or bad, right or wrong. So, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are you doing? Is it that you're part of this zombie apocalypse? You go walking around calling these other people maybe within yourself, not verbally, because you probably are a kind soul. But would you think of these people as zombies? But yet, perhaps you're the zombie as well. Have you ever considered that? Is it that you look at yourself in the mirror and look into the dark side to really get with yourself? Because when you do, you see, it's a bit like light and dark. I wouldn't be able to speak right now if it wasn't for my darkness and for my light. You wouldn't hear me, you nor would see me. But it's because of that darkness combined with the duality that you can hear this transmission. So we're looking into the mirror now, and we've got to ask ourselves some serious questions. We really do. And there's no many people out there that are going to ask you to ask yourself to ask these serious questions, because everyone's a soothsayer out there, and they perhaps don't have the level of comprehension about what's actually taking place and what the system is, and haven't done the work on the other system as well when it comes to the spiritual realms. So, when we do ask ourselves, are we supporting what it is that we're disgusted about, the things that we share with others, perhaps, that come in conversation with some of our friends, whether it would be the health system, whether it would be the education system, whether it would be like commerce, e-commerce, whether it would be local council, community, all these sorts of things we bring up, and a whole lot more. And I'm sure things will come to your mind and those things as well. And we've got to ask ourselves, are we feeding? Are we giving our energy to those things, or are we not? Are we feeding that, or are we not? Because in these situations, there is no in between. There really isn't. As much as you'd like to think there is, as much as you'd like to probably delude yourself there is not. You can't go punching someone in the head and then justifying that to be somewhat okay or right. Or, aiming your conveyance into somebody, just like knocking them over a little bit, and just convincing yourself and justifying that's okay. It's not a bad thing. It was warranted. No. A good is a good and a bad is a bad. The duality, the wrong, the right, the yes, the no. And with duality, well, perhaps with duality, that's a whole different light a whole different illumination, being communication, being information, rather communicated, transmissive. So are we supporting that? So when we look about the health system, for example, do we go to doctors? Do we buy any of the health food products where you'll find in supermarkets or health food stores or chemists? You know, do you go visit a doctor? Do you go to a hospital? These sorts of things. You know, when it comes to, let's just say, the Queensland Police Service or the nation state that you're in's police service, there are those foreign agents out there. So when it comes to these guys, what do? Do you talk to them like they're your countrymen? Do you do as they ask you? Do you do exactly what your mum or your dad told you not to do as a little child? Is not talk to strangers, do you? I'm not going to keep going on with examples, but across the board. So we're talking health. But I will add one more. We're talking commerce. And let's talk education. Okay, there's so many people that I've come across in the last couple of years. I mean, I've come across a lot of people over the last 13 years because this is nothing new for me. I haven't just started talking about this and living my life, habitual, being a self-determined, self-sustaining sort of a guy. This is something that I've done for a very long time. It's kind of natural for me. Hence why I bring this transmission forward, because if I didn't do it, I wouldn't be able to speak it. But it's the education system. And as I was saying, heard many people talking about these sorts of things, about the education system. So what is it? Is it that you don't support the education system? The only way you could really support an education system, I suppose, you could go to TAFE, you could go to university, or you could have a child that you might cart down to school and drop off to be indoctrinated, to have their imaginations and creativity destroyed, have all sorts of psychological, emotional and spiritual damages done to them each and every day. Now, these are the questions you ask. Is it that you do that? Because if it is, like the other two and the plethora of others, you are supporting it. Oh, but. Oh, but. Oh, but what? Oh, but you're going to say something and worldly would be a excuse. Well, that's a barefaced lie. They just watered it down to an excuse to make it normalized. But it's not fucking normal to sit there and barefaced lie to people. It goes against the law. You're not to lie. So what is it? Obviously, you got boundaries and barriers because they're worldly, but yet you're woke. No, you're not woke. You're beginning to pull the fluff from one of your eye and you start to see a little bit of light. Okay? Don't sit there and sensationalize things, because if you were woke, you wouldn't be doing these things. Full stop. Okay? These are the harsh realities that you need to hear. I'm not here to gain any likes, okay? Because I've got to live with myself and I love who I am. And many people that I'm close to feel the same way, because I treat others how I like to be treated. You are another me. And because perhaps you're ignoring that shadow, which is you, because within all of us, there is that right and there is that wrong. There is that light and there is that dark. There is the lie and there's the truth in all of us. And that dark side really, really contributes well to that light side of us. But to ignore that dark side isn't very good. So I'm your dark side. I'm your shadow. You're facing your shadow right here when I speak to you. Because who else is going to? Who? Okay? So this transmission is in correlation to the zombie apocalypse. It's been here for a very long time. I've been looking around and when I'm cruising about doing whatever it is that I wish to do, because I'm not controlled and dictated by any illusions and delusions in my existence. All these people racing around, they're answering phone calls, jumping on Tinder, looking at things, trying to look productive with this persona that they've got. And I think that they're split and broken and shattered. So there's not just one, there's several of these personas. And we all have personas until the time arrives that we sit there and we face ourselves. We face the mirror. And when we look and see the reflection of ourselves, we meet the shadow. Welcome, shadow. Now let there be light. You can see that light because there's the shadow. It's a bit like the shirt, the black and the white. Without that white, you wouldn't see the black too well. Could be on a dark brown. Anyways, I digress. So what remedies have we got going on here? Daniel Luke has always brought remedies and ideas. But my remedies these days will be coming around about the ideas and thought-provoking discussion to think about things perhaps that we don't think about, like sustainability. Do you guys even know how many kilowatts a day you use in power? Do you guys know how much water you consume? Have you considered that if relying on Nanny and her little power supply through your power points, how you'd be able to manage to maintain that luxury of what you have without her? Because Nanny, electric company, is partied to this bad. And I'll tell you what, I believe the next time that I speak with you guys, this transmission will be coming from the likes of the energy from the sun, because I'll be off grid. There won't be any power connection to the company, because right now I'm feeling a little bit sick because I don't want to be supporting bad. So I stand up against it. So I will be cutting ties with the electricity company. Bye-bye. And no, that doesn't mean bye-bye for transmissions, power, computer, all these luxuries here that I have in the office to be able to do all the things that I enjoy, which consume a lot of power, because this computer here is quite hungry on power. But the questions are, the consumption of water, foods, what foods, is there some sorts of health issues that surround your family? Maybe your child, this and that, might need a bit more alkaline, a bit more proteins and whatnot. Where do those sources come from our whole foods? Are you able to grow those whole foods in your garden? Are you aware that there's, for those that are in little areas, there's ways that you can grow these sorts of things? Do you know what you can grow at this time of the season? What do you plant in spring, early summer? What are the good things that you can get? How do they grow? How do you maintain a harvest throughout the year so these guys drop off? These ones harvest, these don't, and so on and so forth. So you've got ample supply of your whole foods. Have you got poultry? Because Nana at the supermarket, she might not be able to deliver you soon poultry, okay? And she might still be serving you poultry and still serving you beef, but what's in that beef and that poultry? Somewhere along the grapevine. Not that we really need to hear it from the grapevine, because we should already be grown up enough to come to realize that they're going to, well, they always have, but they're going to throw in some real funky dunky stuff in the poultry and in these cows. So you are what you consume. So is it then you'll go like, oh, that's, and just have it anyway. Just like going to hang out with a couple of, medical experimentees and just hang out with them, Oh, yeah, she'll be all right. Heard along the grapevine that, there's something called shedding, but, hey, I'm not grown up enough to actually carry out what I know and put it to action. Because that's what it is, isn't it? It's not really grown up. Hey, those people there, I'll get an accountant for this. Oh, I'll get a tax specialist for this. Oh, I'll get a mechanic to fix the engine. Oh, I better get an electrician in. Why? Why don't you do them all yourself? Oh, that's right, because you're getting weak in the days, throughout the weekdays, living out some sort of an illusion, with many personas and masks, with all these barefaced lies and the neglect of your shadow self. That's probably why, isn't it? Because it's these sorts of things that you need to do, which demonstrates that we're grown up. And yet you're woke. You're woke. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. If you were here right now, you'd start throwing a punch at me. Oh, yeah. Well, it just shows you how just weak you are. Because a tough guy would take some accountability, because that's there where your strength is. That's true. Think about it. Think about it.